The morning sun cast long shadows across the forward operating base in Afghanistan as Sergeant Sarah Martinez knelt beside her Barrett M82 rifle. The weapon gleamed under her careful attention, every surface methodically cleaned and polished until it reflected the harsh desert light like a mirror. This wasn't just routine maintenance for Sarah. It was a ritual, a meditation that connected her to the tool that had kept her alive through countless missions. Sarah had been with the 3rd Infantry Division for 4 years, but her reputation had grown far beyond her unit. At 26, she possessed an almost supernatural ability with long-range weapons that left even seasoned snipers shaking their heads in disbelief. Her fellow soldiers often joked that she could thread a needle at 1,000 yards, but those who had served alongside her knew it wasn't really a joke. The base was unusually quiet this Tuesday morning. Most of the personnel were either sleeping off night shifts or preparing for afternoon patrols. Sarah preferred these peaceful moments when she could focus entirely on her equipment without distractions. She ran the cleaning rod through the barrel one final time, checking for any residue that might affect her next shot. As she worked, the sound of approaching footsteps on gravel caught her attention. She glanced up to see a small group of officers walking across the compound, their conversation animated but hushed. Leading the group was a man she didn't immediately recognize. Tall, silver-haired, with the bearing of someone accustomed to command. The stars on his collar caught the sunlight as he gestured toward different areas of the base. General Robert Harrison had arrived at the forward operating base unannounced, as was his custom. He believed in seeing his troops in operations without the typical fanfare and preparation that usually accompanied high-ranking visits. The 3-star general had commanded respect throughout his 30-year career, rising through the ranks based on tactical brilliance and an uncanny ability to spot exceptional talent among his soldiers. The general's attention was drawn to the lone figure, meticulously caring for her weapon near the armory. There was something about the soldier's posture, the deliberate precision of her movements, that spoke to years of disciplined training. As his group drew closer, he could see it was a female sergeant, completely absorbed in her work. "That's quite a weapon," General Harrison remarked as he approached, causing Sarah to look up sharply. She immediately recognized the rank insignia and scrambled to attention, nearly knocking over her cleaning kit in the process. "Sir, I apologize. I didn't hear you approach." Sarah stammered, snapping into a crisp salute. "At ease, Sergeant," the general replied with a slight smile. "I didn't mean to startle you. That's a Barrett 50 caliber, isn't it?" "Yes, sir. Barrett M82A1. My primary weapon system," Sarah responded, relaxing slightly but maintaining her military bearing. General Harrison's eyes were drawn to something on Sarah's uniform, a small badge pinned above her ribbon rack that seemed different from the standard decorations he was accustomed to seeing. The badge displayed a distinctive design featuring crossed rifles and a target. But there was something unusual about the numbers etched into its surface. "Sergeant, if you don't mind me asking, what's that badge you're wearing?" "I don't believe I'm familiar with it," the general inquired. Stepping closer to get a better look, Sarah glanced down at her chest, then back at the general. "It's a marksmanship qualification badge, sir. It tracks confirmed long-range eliminations during combat operations. And those numbers on it? Kill confirmations, sir. Verified by multiple witnesses and forward observers." General Harrison leaned in to examine the badge more closely, and what he saw made him pause. The numbers etched into the small piece of metal seemed impossible. He had served with some of the finest snipers in military history, had read classified reports from the most elite units, but the figure displayed on this young sergeant's badge exceeded anything he had encountered. "Sergeant Martinez," he read from her name tape. "Are you telling me this badge shows 147 confirmed kills?" "Yes, sir. 147 confirmed eliminations, at ranges exceeding 800 meters. All verified, according to military standards." The general's accompanying officers exchanged glances, clearly as stunned as their commander. In the modern military, even the most skilled snipers typically recorded kill counts in the dozens, not approaching the legendary figures from World War I and Vietnam-era conflicts. "How long have you been deployed, Sergeant?" "This is my 3rd deployment, sir. Total time in theater is approximately 18 months across all rotations." The mathematics was staggering. 147 confirmed kills in 18 months represented a level of effectiveness that bordered on the mythical. General Harrison had read classified briefings about enemy casualties and force reduction, but seeing the human face behind those statistics was profoundly different. "What's your longest confirmed kill, if you don't mind sharing?" Sarah hesitated for a moment, knowing how incredible her answer would sound. 2,100 meters, sir. Taliban commander attempting to coordinate an ambush on a supply convoy. Single shot, head elimination. The general felt a chill run down his spine. A kill at that distance required not just exceptional marksmanship, but an understanding of ballistics, wind patterns, and environmental factors that took most snipers years to develop. The fact that this young woman had achieved it suggested capabilities that could reshape how the military approached long-range operations. "Who was your trainer, Sergeant? Where did you learn to shoot like this?" "My father taught me the basics growing up in Montana, sir. But most of my advanced training came from experience in the field and working with the unit's designated marksman instructor." General Harrison nodded slowly, processing this information. He had built his career on recognizing exceptional talent and understanding how to leverage it for maximum strategic advantage. What he was looking at represented something far beyond normal military capability. It was a force multiplier that could potentially alter the balance of power in entire regions of conflict. "Sergeant, I'd like to review your service record and speak with your commanding officer." This conversation isn't over. As the general and his entourage moved away, Sarah returned to polishing her rifle, but her mind was racing. She had always known her abilities were unusual, but she had never sought attention for them. In her view, she was simply doing her job, protecting her fellow soldiers and eliminating threats to mission success. The idea that her performance might have caught the attention of such a high-ranking officer both excited and worried her. Unknown to Sarah, General Harrison was already formulating plans that would soon change the trajectory of her military career forever. The numbers on that small badge represented capabilities that could revolutionize military strategy, and he intended to ensure those capabilities were utilized to their fullest potential. Sarah Elizabeth Martinez had grown up in the remote wilderness of northwestern Montana, where the nearest neighbor lived 7 miles away, and the closest town was a 40-minute drive through winding mountain roads. Her father, Carlos Martinez, was a former Marine Corps scout sniper who had served 2 tours in Vietnam before returning home to work as a hunting guide and wilderness survival instructor. Carlos had recognized something special in his daughter from an early age. While other children played with dolls or video games, 5-year-old Sarah would spend hours watching him clean his rifles, asking endless questions about how bullets traveled through the air and why wind mattered when shooting long distances. By age 8, she was accompanying him on hunting trips, carrying her own youth rifle, and demonstrating a natural understanding of fieldcraft that amazed seasoned hunters. Sarah had this ability to see patterns that others missed, Carlos would later tell military investigators. She could read wind like it was written language, understand how temperature and humidity affected bullet flight before I even finished explaining it. Most shooters take decades to develop that intuition. She seemed born with it. Her first deer kill came at age 12, a clean heart shot at 300 yards using her father's .270 Winchester. The local hunting guide still talked about it years later, describing how the young girl had calculated wind drift and elevation changes in her head, while grown men struggled with rangefinders and ballistics charts. High school brought new challenges and opportunities. Sarah joined the school's shooting team, quickly dominating regional competitions despite using equipment that was often inferior to her competitors. Her mathematics grades were exceptional, particularly in subjects involving physics and geometry. Teachers noticed she could visualize complex geometric relationships in 3-dimensional space with remarkable clarity. The decision to join the Army came during her senior year, influenced partly by family tradition and partly by a desire to test her abilities against the highest standards available. Her ASVAB scores placed her in the 99th percentile, qualifying her for virtually any military occupation. However, Sarah specifically requested infantry assignment with the hope of eventual sniper training. Basic training at Fort Benning revealed both her exceptional abilities and her determination to excel. Drill instructors initially questioned whether the quiet girl from Montana could handle the physical and mental demands of infantry training, but those doubts evaporated during weapons qualification. Sarah achieved perfect scores on every marksmanship test, often shooting groups so tight that range officers checked targets multiple times to verify the results. "I've been training soldiers for 15 years, remembered Staff Sergeant Michael Chen, her primary marksmanship instructor. "I've never seen anyone with Sarah's natural ability, combined with that level of dedication to improvement." While other recruits were socializing during free time, she was in the library, reading ballistics manuals or practicing breathing techniques. Advanced individual training introduced Sarah to military precision shooting techniques and equipment far superior to anything she had used in Montana. The M24 sniper weapon system became an extension of her will, and instructors began documenting her performance for future reference. During final qualification, she achieved the highest marksmanship scores in the training battalion's history, prompting immediate recommendations for advanced sniper school. Her first deployment to Afghanistan came with the 3rd Infantry Division's 1st Brigade Combat Team. The transition from training to combat operations tested every skill she had developed, but also revealed capabilities that even she hadn't fully understood. The mountain terrain of eastern Afghanistan provided shooting opportunities at ranges that challenged conventional military doctrine. The first confirmed kill came during her 3rd week in theater. A Taliban sniper had been harassing supply convoys from a ridgeline position nearly 1,000 meters away, successfully evading multiple attempts at elimination. Sarah studied the target area for 2 days, mapping wind patterns and identifying the optimal firing position. When the opportunity presented itself, her single shot eliminated the threat and potentially saved dozens of American lives. Word of her success spread quickly through the unit. Within months, Sarah was being specifically requested for high-priority missions requiring precision elimination of high-value targets. Her kill count began climbing steadily as commanders recognized her unique ability to solve problems that conventional tactics couldn't address. The Barrett M82 anti-material rifle entered her arsenal during the 2nd deployment. The heavy .50 caliber weapon was typically used against vehicles and equipment, but in Sarah's hands, it became a precision instrument capable of engaging human targets at distances previously considered impossible. Her longest shots began pushing the boundaries of what military manuals claimed was feasible. Mission reports from this period read like fiction to officers unfamiliar with Sarah's capabilities. Enemy commanders eliminated at ranges exceeding 1,500 meters. Vehicle operators killed through engine blocks at distances where other snipers couldn't even identify targets. Explosive device emplacers eliminated before they could complete their deadly work. The psychological impact on enemy forces became as significant as the tactical advantages. Intelligence reports indicated that Taliban and Al-Qaeda operatives were abandoning operations after learning that the ghost shooter was operating in their area. Entire cells relocated to avoid her capabilities, creating strategic effects far beyond the immediate tactical results. Sarah's approach to each mission combined scientific precision with artistic intuition. She maintained detailed logs of every shot, recording environmental conditions, target distance, ammunition performance, and dozens of other variables. This data allowed her to develop shooting solutions for conditions that other snipers found impossible. Sarah treated long-range shooting like a complex mathematical equation, explained Captain James Riley, her spotter during the 2nd deployment. She could calculate solutions in her head that most snipers needed computers to figure out. But it wasn't just mathematics. She had this almost supernatural ability to read environmental conditions and predict how they would affect bullet flight. The 3rd deployment brought the most challenging missions yet. Enemy forces had adapted to conventional American tactics, but they had no answer for Sarah's capabilities. High-value targets that intelligence agencies had tracked for months were eliminated with single shots from distances that made traditional security measures irrelevant. Each success added to her growing reputation, but also increased the pressure and expectations. Military psychologists monitoring her performance noted remarkable mental resilience despite the intense operational tempo. While many soldiers struggled with the psychological impact of combat, Sarah seemed to thrive under pressure, displaying what one report described as exceptional emotional stability combined with laser-focused determination. Her equipment evolved to match her capabilities. The standard Barrett rifle received custom modifications designed specifically for her shooting style. High-end optics, custom ammunition, and specialized accessories transformed the weapon into something approaching a precision scientific instrument. Military armorers began consulting with her on equipment development, recognizing that her requirements exceeded anything they had previously encountered. The badge that would later catch General Harrison's attention had been created by her unit's leadership to formally recognize achievements that exceeded normal military decoration categories. Each number etched into its surface represented hours of planning, perfect execution under extreme pressure, and the elimination of threats that could have cost American lives. By the time of her encounter with the general, Sarah had become something unique in military history, a soldier whose individual capabilities could influence strategic outcomes. Her kill record represented not just exceptional marksmanship, but a level of tactical effectiveness that military planners were only beginning to understand. The young woman who had learned to shoot in the Montana wilderness had evolved into a force of nature that enemy combatants feared and American commanders increasingly relied upon. But she remained fundamentally unchanged, dedicated to protecting her fellow soldiers and completing whatever mission the Army assigned her, regardless of how impossible it might seem to others. The phone call came at 0600 hours, 3 days after General Harrison's unexpected visit. Sarah was summoned to the base commander's office immediately, with instructions to bring her complete service record and equipment inventory. As she walked across the compound in the pre-dawn darkness, she couldn't shake the feeling that her military career was about to change dramatically. Colonel Patricia Williams, the base commander, was waiting with a secure satellite phone and several thick manila folders spread across her desk. The call connected directly to the Pentagon, where General Harrison was conferencing with senior military leadership about a classified initiative that would reshape special operations doctrine. Sergeant Martinez. The general's voice crackled through the encrypted connection. I've spent the last 72 hours reviewing your complete military file, mission reports, and consulting with experts across multiple agencies. What I've discovered exceeds my initial assessment. We need to discuss your immediate future. The conversation that followed would later be classified at the highest levels of military security. General Harrison outlined a new program designed to leverage exceptional individual capabilities for strategic advantage. Sarah's demonstrated abilities had convinced Pentagon leadership that traditional sniper doctrine needed fundamental revision to accommodate operators capable of performance beyond established parameters. Within a week, Sarah received orders transferring her to a classified unit operating under direct Pentagon oversight. The transition happened so quickly that most of her previous unit never learned where she had gone. Official records simply showed a routine personnel transfer, but the reality involved integration into programs that existed in the shadowy intersection between conventional military operations and specialized intelligence activities. The new assignment brought Sarah to a nondescript facility in Virginia, where she encountered other individuals with similarly exceptional abilities. The unit combined advanced technology with unprecedented operational freedom, tasked with missions that conventional forces couldn't accomplish through traditional means. Her first briefing revealed the scope of what Pentagon planners envisioned. Intelligence agencies had identified numerous high-value targets, operating in environments where conventional military operations were politically or practically impossible. Sarah's demonstrated ability to engage targets at extreme ranges while remaining undetected offered solutions to problems that had frustrated military and intelligence leadership for years. The equipment available to her new unit exceeded anything she had previously imagined. Custom rifle systems built by the finest military contractors, incorporating technology that pushed the boundaries of current engineering capabilities. Optic systems that cost more than most people's homes, ammunition developed specifically for extreme-range applications, and support equipment that transformed long-range shooting from an art into a precise science. Training exercises in the Virginia facility tested capabilities that conventional military doctrine considered impossible. Targets at distances exceeding 2 miles became routine engagement ranges. Environmental conditions that would force other units to cancel operations became simply additional variables for Sarah to calculate and overcome. Sarah represented a paradigm shift in how we approached certain types of operations, explained Dr. Jennifer Walsh, the unit's chief technical advisor. Her capabilities allowed us to consider mission profiles that were previously pure fantasy. We weren't just working with an exceptional sniper. We were developing entirely new categories of strategic capability. The first operational deployment under her new assignment occurred 6 months later in a location that remains classified. The mission involved eliminating a high-value target who had evaded capture for over 3 years, protected by sophisticated security measures, and operating from a location considered impregnable to conventional assault. Sarah's solution involved a shot that military historians would later describe as impossible if they had been allowed to write about it. The target was eliminated from a distance that exceeded even her previous records, under environmental conditions that should have made accurate shooting impossible, with consequences that immediately altered the strategic balance in that region. Mission success led to additional assignments that pushed the boundaries of what one individual could accomplish through precision application of lethal force. Each operation was meticulously planned and executed, with Sarah's capabilities enabling mission profiles that conventional forces couldn't even attempt. The psychological impact of her new role became as significant as the tactical results. Enemy organizations began implementing security measures specifically designed to counter her capabilities. But these efforts often proved futile against her combination of technical skill and tactical innovation. The knowledge that she could eliminate high-value targets from distances that made traditional protection irrelevant fundamentally changed how hostile forces operated. General Harrison monitored her performance through detailed after-action reports that documented capabilities continuing to exceed projections. The young sergeant he had encountered polishing her rifle had evolved into a strategic asset whose individual contributions influenced outcomes at the highest levels of international conflict. Sarah's operational effectiveness created ripple effects throughout multiple theaters of operation. General Harrison later explained to a classified congressional briefing, enemy organizations that had operated with impunity for years suddenly found their leadership vulnerable to elimination without warning. This forced them to adopt security measures that significantly reduced their operational effectiveness. The badge that had initially caught the general's attention became a museum piece, retired when Sarah's kill count exceeded its display capacity. New tracking systems were implemented to document achievements that had no precedent in military history, requiring classification levels that prevented public acknowledgement of her contributions. Recognition of her capabilities extended beyond American military leadership. Allied intelligence services began requesting her involvement in operations that their own forces couldn't accomplish. International cooperation agreements were modified to accommodate assignment of strategic individuals to missions previously considered impossible. Sarah's personal evolution matched her professional development. The quiet girl from Montana had become a confident, professional operator capable of functioning at the highest levels of military and intelligence operations. Psychological evaluations showed remarkable mental resilience, despite operational pressures that would overwhelm most individuals. The training programs she influenced began producing the next generation of extreme-range specialists, though none approached her natural capabilities. Military doctrine was rewritten to incorporate tactical options that her performance had proven feasible, fundamentally changing how strategic planners approached certain categories of problems. Her influence on equipment development revolutionized military marksmanship technology. Requirements defined by her capabilities drove innovation in rifle design, ammunition development, and supporting systems. Defense contractors competed to develop solutions that could match her demands for precision and reliability. 5 years after that chance encounter while polishing her Barrett rifle, Sarah had become something unique in military history. An individual whose personal capabilities had influenced strategic doctrine and international conflict resolution. Her name appeared in classified documents read by presidents and prime ministers, though public acknowledgement remained impossible due to operational security requirements. The general who had noticed an unusual badge on a young sergeant's uniform had unleashed capabilities that reshaped how America projected power in an increasingly complex world. Sarah Martinez had evolved from an exceptional individual into a strategic asset whose contributions would influence military operations for generations to come. Her story represented the intersection of natural talent, dedicated training, and organizational support that could transform individual excellence into strategic advantage. The woman who had learned to shoot in the Montana wilderness had become a force that hostile organizations around the world learned to fear. even if they never understood exactly what they were facing. The badge had told only part of her story. The complete narrative remained classified at levels that ensured her true contributions would remain unknown except to those with the highest security clearances, and the need to know how one exceptional individual had changed the nature of modern conflict forever.